What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Respect and Pray Show. I am your host, Miguel Mike Medina, Triple M. And on this episode, I have known this guy since high school. We never really talked much, but I remember we had one particular class together, and I think that class was called graphic novel. I think it's called graphic art. And I was a sophomore and he was a junior, and it was first period class, and it was one of those classes at the beginning I just wasn't liking it, I wasn't feeling it. But it's just funny how both of us, we've come so far and we're both into the arts, but he's done so much. He's a poet, he's a filmmaker, he likes comic books and stuff like that. So it's gonna be a very interesting interview to talk a little bit about him, and hope you enjoy this one.
We tried to bring comics a little more into the real world. The serious themes that I would occasionally inject were for another reason. I began to realize, judging by the fan mail that we received, I began to realize that our books had quite an influence on the readers.
Look at us now.
It's a great honor to present to you Vee Rodriguez. Vee, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. It's good to see you.
Likewise. So tell us, how did it all start? Let's go with the music first. How did that start?
I mean, music has always been a part of my DNA, essentially. From a young age, like a real young age, like I've always been fascinated with just writing. Like I always wrote poetry, and then from poetry, as I got older, like middle school, it just evolved into like rap. I got like a rhythm going in my head from it, and then I just started doing like hip hop, and it's just something that I've always been in love with, really. Like I see other artists, I've been inspired by like other artists who use their voices for, not to be too preachy or anything like that, but they use it as a tool to empower their audience. You know what I mean?
Mixtape versus the world. How do you come up with that name? And tell us more about it.
At that point, I kind of felt like I was in that state of mind where it was just me versus the world. But the further along in the creative process that I got with that project, I kind of wanted it to become its own movement of like, instead of being against the world per se, it's like you as an individual versus what everybody else is doing. You know what I mean? As an artist, as a person, like just fully embracing who you are despite what anybody has to say about it.
Look at us now. How did that come about?
It's a funny story because look at us now. It's one of those things where like I was just watching TV one day, and comic books is also something that's been a part of my life for a very long time, if you couldn't tell. And whenever I would watch certain TV shows, certain movies, comic book fans would always be depicted a certain way. You know what I mean? Like they'd always be boxed in as a certain type of individual, and an individual that's never presented in the most confident light, in the most positive light. Um, even like something like Big Bang Theory, which is, I think, what your general audience would associate with geek culture. You know what I mean? Like, I personally couldn't relate to any of those characters. And, you know, most of those characters weren't minorities. They didn't represent who I was. So I just wanted to create something that shed light on the different types of comic book fans, whether it's people like me, or, you know, women, even just different perspectives. And I've met and connected with a lot of people through comic books, like going to comic book stores in New York City. And, you know, the community itself, it's so tight knit, you know, especially like before all the like movies became so big. We felt like we were like this little group, this marginalized group that nobody really took seriously. And I think that's something that helped me personally, at least, you know, bond with other people, find that connection in stories that inspire us and reflect our own society, like, you know, and it obviously in a very exaggerative way, but, you know, I'm sure you yourself as an artist can kind of see that as well.
How does it feel to have so much success with the film?
Feels completely surreal. Like when I was making the film, I had no intention of, you know, getting award recognition or even being selected by so many festivals. I literally just wanted to just project that, you know what I mean? Like, it was supposed to be like this fun little YouTube thing that I just wanted to get out of my system, for lack of a better term, you know. I really, really just wrote a poem after watching, funny enough, it was like right after I watched Avengers Endgame for like the first time, and just thinking like, yo, look how far we made it, son. Like, if somebody in the 90s told me that, yo, one day you're gonna watch a movie and it's gonna have like all your favorite Marvel characters, and it's gonna have Iron Man and Captain America, Black Panther, Thanos is gonna be in this movie. It's like, if you think about, you know, even like our childhood in the 90s, it was crazy to even think of a Spider-Man movie being made. You know what I mean? Like, that was insane when they first said, yo, by the way, Spider-Man's coming out. I was like, what? A movie about Spider-Man? That's crazy. I gotta see that to believe it. And then fast forward, like, you know, 20 years later, we are just completely spoiled with all this content. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, yo, damn, look at us now, yo. Like, look how far we made it. Highest grossing film of all time, you know? And they're not made the same way that they were back in the 90s, you know? Like, we're talking about a time where Hollywood didn't exactly figure out superheroes or comic books in general. It was always very campy, very over the top, and just not taken as seriously as the source material. And, you know, just watching all the superhero content that we have now and how it's being treated, and the people behind it, you know, are obviously fans. It's just a beautiful thing to see. Like, yo, this is where we are. Like, look at us now. That's crazy. Here we are.
Where can we follow you on social media?
And follow me on Instagram at Vee the Vision, all one word, obviously.
Vee, thank you for joining me on this interview, and best of luck to you on everything.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I respect you as a person. I respect you as an artist, and it's an honor to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to present to you now one of his short films, and that short film is called Shades, so enjoy it.
We believe that our problem is one not of violation of civil rights, but a violation of human rights. Not only are we denied the right to be a citizen in the United States, we're denied the right to be a human being.
¿Sientes que vives en un país libre con toda la vigilancia que hay, el NSA invadiendo el espacio privado de las personas, las noticias controlando y manipulando la información, con comerciales para unirse al ARM en los cines, etcétera, etcétera, etcétera?
Streets run through me like they're running out of time. To doubt of mine is toxicity boxed into a paradox, teared approximately into me to make an error stop. Errors got us programmed with the wrong data. The wrong place at the right time might chime our own doom. I pluck the strings they tie me with to make my own tune. The throne room raided and riddled by maidens and fiddlers. Laid in the middle is the crown for the taking. The sounds that we're making are the only things to listen to. Just listen. You can roleplay as hypocrite, throw shade, or sit in it. The choice is yours. Your voice is yours until it isn't.
We must know what part politics play in our lives. And until we become politically mature, we will always be misled, led astray, or deceived or maneuvered into supporting someone politically who doesn't have the good of our community at heart.
Until the moment comes when we, the American people, are able to accept the fact that I have to accept, for example, that my ancestors are both white and black. That on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other.
Those who cannot remember their past are doomed to repeat it, coño.
There's a wrong way and a right way. And if you listen good, you will know the right way. You know? Because there is a voice inside talking to everyone.
My lips tell all without a single word spoken. A token for my thoughts still won't amount to my survival. They have infiltrated perception. Correction is facilitated, ill-debated from all directions. If you pick one side, it's the wrong one. Choose love to not diffuse love because the news hub won't let you. They remind you to forget you. But even forgotten history repeats itself. Defeat can tell if you're approaching glory. My DNA tells a story. Just listen.
Well, that does it for this episode of the Respect and Praise Show. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I also hope you enjoy the movie. And always remember, have mutual respect, mutual love, and mutual admiration. So, until next time.